What if the greatest power humanity has ever sought was never hidden in weapons, empires, or machines, but quietly waiting inside the human body itself? What if the rise and fall of civilizations were not driven only by gold, land, or armies, but by an ancient understanding of how to control inner energy, an understanding that modern people have almost forgotten? This question opens a door not only to history, but to the deepest layer of human consciousness. From the first shamans who danced around fire to monks who sat unmoving for decades, humanity has always searched for a way to master an invisible force that shapes health, clarity, courage, and destiny. This video begins where that search truly starts, at the moment when humans first realized that energy could be felt, directed, and trained. Before electricity lit cities and engines ruled industry, energy was not a technical term. It was breath, warmth, rhythm, and awareness. Early humans noticed that fear weakened the body, while calm made it strong, that controlled breathing changed endurance, that focused intention sharpened the senses. These observations were not theories, but survival knowledge. Hunters learned that a steady inner state meant steadier hands. Healers learned that presence mattered as much as herbs. Warriors learned that courage was not rage, but controlled inner fire. Over thousands of years, these lessons slowly became systems, rituals, and disciplines passed from generation to generation. The first steps in energy control were never mystical fantasies. They were practical responses to life. Ancient cultures did not separate body and mind. They experienced them as one flowing system. When they spoke of energy, they meant the lived experience of vitality moving through muscles, breath, and attention. The earliest techniques were simple but profound. Standing still to feel the body's weight, breathing slowly to calm the heart, directing attention inward to notice subtle sensations. These were not acts of belief, but acts of observation. Energy control began as self-awareness. History shows that whenever societies reached moments of crisis, inner discipline rose in importance. Periods of war, famine, and uncertainty pushed humans to search for stability inside when the outside world collapsed. That is why so many ancient traditions emphasize grounding, breathing, and posture. They understood that a person who cannot regulate inner energy becomes a prisoner of fear and impulse, while a person who can becomes resilient even in chaos. This is the deeper meaning behind practices that later generations would romanticize without understanding. Modern science is now slowly confirming what ancient practitioners sensed intuitively. Research on breathing, nervous system regulation, and focused attention shows measurable effects on stress hormones, immune response, and cognitive clarity. What was once described as energy flow is now mapped through neural pathways and biochemical signals. The language has changed, but the experience remains the same. The first step is still awareness. The second is control. The third is transformation. This video series is not about myths, nor about shortcuts to power. It is about reconnecting with a forgotten human skill that shaped history silently. If you want more deep, honest explorations like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is the energy that allows this work to continue, to go deeper, and to serve a community that values understanding over noise. Long before words like physiology or neuroscience existed, humans discovered a truth so simple that it often goes unnoticed today. Breath changes everything. In the earliest records of human practice, breath was never just air moving in and out of the lungs. It was the bridge between the visible body and the invisible inner state. Ancient observers noticed that when breath became shallow, fear took over, and when breath slowed and deepened, clarity returned. This was not philosophy. It was experience repeated thousands of times until it became certainty. The first practical step in energy control was learning to observe the breath without forcing it. Early practitioners understood that control does not begin with domination, but with listening. Sitting quietly, feeling the air pass through the nose, noticing how the chest and abdomen moved, they began to map their inner landscape. They realized that breath had rhythm, and that rhythm influenced emotion, strength, and attention. A calm rhythm created stability. A chaotic rhythm created weakness. From this awareness, technique was born. Historical traditions across continents arrived at the same conclusion independently. Whether in deserts, mountains, or forests, humans learned that slow breathing conserved energy, while rapid breathing burned it uncontrollably. Hunters used breath to steady their aim. Healers used it to calm pain. Elders used it to enter states of deep focus where insight emerged naturally. These practices were practical because life demanded them. A mistake in breath during danger could mean death. Mastery meant survival. What makes breath unique is that it sits between conscious and unconscious control. The heart beats without permission, but breath waits for instruction. This made it the ideal training ground for energy control. By learning to guide breath, humans learned to guide attention. By guiding attention, they learned to influence inner states that once seemed uncontrollable. Fear, anger, fatigue, and doubt slowly became signals rather than masters. This is where true power begins, not in force, but in regulation. Modern science now provides language for what ancient people felt. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering stress hormones and stabilizing heart rate. Focused breathing increases oxygen efficiency and improves cognitive performance. What ancient texts called calming energy is now measured as nervous system balance. Yet the experience remains deeply personal. No machine can breathe for you. No technology can replace awareness. The practice is still direct, intimate, and human. The mistake many people make today is trying to control energy aggressively. Ancient practitioners warned against this. They knew that forcing breath creates tension, and tension blocks flow. The first step is always softness, letting breath lengthen naturally, letting pauses appear without fear, letting attention rest instead of chase. In this gentleness, energy reorganizes itself. Strength emerges not as explosion, but as quiet endurance. This understanding shaped entire cultures. Societies that valued breath training produced warriors who fought with discipline, scholars who thought clearly under pressure, and leaders who remained calm during crisis. Breath was not taught as an isolated exercise, but as a foundation for character. To control breath was to control reaction. To control reaction was to control destiny. As you continue watching this series, remember that mastery begins with humility. Breath teaches patience before power. If this perspective resonates with you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Each subscription is a signal that depth still matters, and that history's quiet wisdom deserves a voice today. Once early practitioners understood breath, their attention naturally moved to the body itself. They realized that energy does not exist in isolation. It lives inside a physical structure. The body is not merely flesh and bone, but a container that can either hold energy efficiently or leak it through tension, imbalance, and unconscious habits. This insight marked a turning point in the history of inner training. Energy control was no longer just about breathing well, but about how one stands, sits, walks, and rests. Ancient observers noticed a simple pattern. When the body collapsed, the mind followed. When posture was stable, the inner state became stable as well. A bent spine weakened alertness. Locked joints created fatigue. Uneven weight produced restlessness. These were not abstract ideas. Farmers felt it after long days in the field. Warriors felt it after hours of standing guard. Monks felt it during extended meditation. Slowly, posture became practice. The first techniques were practical and almost deceptively simple. Standing with feet firmly on the ground, spine upright but not rigid, shoulders relaxed, head balanced as if gently suspended. This position was not chosen for aesthetics, but for efficiency. In this alignment, breathing deepened naturally. Muscles stopped fighting gravity. Energy that was once wasted on tension became available for awareness and action. The body became quiet, and in that quietness, sensitivity increased. Sitting practices followed the same logic. Early practitioners discovered that comfort was not softness, but balance. Sitting too loosely led to sleepiness. Sitting too stiffly led to pain and distraction. The correct posture allowed stillness without strain. Over time, this stillness revealed something unexpected. When the body stopped moving unnecessarily, subtle sensations emerged. Warmth, vibration, a sense of fullness or flow. This was energy felt directly, not imagined, not explained, simply experienced. Walking also became a form of training. Instead of rushing, practitioners learned to feel each step, the transfer of weight, the contact with the ground. Movement was no longer separate from awareness. Energy was trained not only in stillness, but in motion. This was crucial because life itself is movement. True control meant remaining centered while acting, not escaping into isolation. From a modern perspective, these practices make perfect sense. Proper posture improves circulation, reduces muscular strain, and optimizes breathing mechanics. Balanced movement enhances coordination between brain and body. What ancient cultures described as energy flow aligns closely with nervous system efficiency. Yet reducing these practices to biology alone misses their deeper value. The real transformation happens when the body becomes an ally instead of an obstacle. The body teaches honesty. Tension cannot be hidden from oneself. Fatigue cannot be ignored forever. By training posture and movement, practitioners learned to listen. They discovered that energy is not something to be added from outside, but something to be preserved and guided. Waste less and more becomes available. This principle shaped not only personal practice, but cultural values around discipline, restraint, and respect for limits. In historical times of hardship, those who mastered their bodies endured longer and adapted faster. Energy control at this level created resilience. It allowed individuals to remain functional under pressure, calm under threat, and present in uncertainty. This is why body training was considered foundational, not optional. Without a stable container, no amount of breathing or intention could be sustained. As this series unfolds, you will see how breath and body together create the groundwork for deeper forms of control. If this journey into practical wisdom speaks to you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this exploration alive and growing. After breath and body were understood as foundations, ancient practitioners encountered a more subtle discovery. Energy does not move randomly. It follows attention. Wherever awareness rests, vitality gathers. Wherever attention scatters, energy dissolves. This realization marked the true beginning of conscious control. Breath stabilizes energy. Posture contains it. Attention directs it. Early humans did not speak of concentration in modern terms, but they experienced its effects clearly. A distracted mind produced weak action. A focused mind produced precision. When attention jumped constantly, energy drained away through nervous movement and emotional reactivity. When attention settled, the body felt fuller, warmer, more alive. This was not imagination. It was the direct result of internal coordination. The first training of attention was remarkably simple. Practitioners chose a single anchor and returned to it repeatedly. Sometimes it was the breath. Sometimes it was the sensation of standing. Sometimes it was a point of balance within the body. The goal was not to block thoughts, but to stop chasing them. Each time attention wandered, it was gently brought back. This act alone changed everything. Over time, attention became less reactive and more stable. What ancient teachers understood was that attention is energy in its most refined form. Muscles move because signals flow. Emotions rise because focus feeds them. Fear grows because attention circles it endlessly. By learning to place attention deliberately, practitioners learned to stop feeding what weakened them and nourish what strengthened them. Calm was no longer passive. It became an active choice. This stage of training revealed an uncomfortable truth. Most energy loss comes from unconscious attention. Worry, regret, anticipation, and internal conflict leak vitality constantly. Ancient practitioners did not judge this process. They observed it. Once observed, it could be changed. Attention could be trained to stay in the present moment, where action is possible and energy is available. This was not spiritual escape. It was practical efficiency. Modern psychology now echoes these insights. Focused attention improves task performance, emotional regulation, and learning capacity. Mind-wandering correlates with stress and dissatisfaction. What ancient cultures framed as scattered energy is now measured as cognitive overload. Different language, same reality. Control begins where awareness is reclaimed. An important lesson emerged at this stage. Force destroys focus. The harder one tries to control attention, the more tense it becomes. Ancient practice emphasized softness again. Attention rests. It does not grip. When allowed to settle naturally, clarity arises on its own. Energy follows effortlessly. This principle separated genuine mastery from self-deception. Historically, this level of control shaped leaders, strategists, and thinkers. The ability to hold attention steady under pressure meant better decisions and fewer mistakes. In chaotic environments, those who could direct attention instead of being dragged by it became anchors for others. This was energy control expressed through presence. Attention also unified breath and body. When awareness stayed within physical sensation, breathing aligned automatically. Posture corrected itself without effort. The system began to function as one. At this point, energy was no longer something practiced only in training sessions. It became a way of being. As we move forward, the next stage will reveal how intention shapes energy beyond mere focus, turning awareness into deliberate direction. If this depth and clarity bring value to you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support fuels this work and allows these timeless insights to reach more people. When attention became steady, ancient practitioners noticed something even more powerful. Energy does not only follow where attention rests, it responds to why attention is placed there. This subtle distinction gave rise to the concept of intention. Intention is not desire, and it is not force. It is direction without tension. It is the quiet decision that shapes how energy organizes itself within the body and mind. Early traditions observed that two people could perform the same movement or breathing practice with very different results. One became calm and strong, the other became restless or exhausted. The difference was not technique alone, but inner orientation. When intention was clear, energy moved smoothly. When intention was confused or conflicted, energy scattered. This understanding transformed practice from mechanical repetition into conscious action. Intention was trained gently. Practitioners learned to set a simple inner direction before action. Not a verbal command, but a felt sense. For example, standing with the intention of stability rather than effort. Breathing with the intention of release rather than control. Moving with the intention of continuity rather than speed. These subtle shifts changed the quality of experience immediately. Energy responded like water guided by a channel. This stage revealed why ancient masters warned against ego-driven practice. When intention was dominated by the desire for power, recognition, or superiority, tension increased and progress stalled. Energy became blocked by internal conflict. True control required humility. Intention had to align with balance, not domination. This lesson appears repeatedly in historical texts because it was learned through hard experience. Modern neuroscience supports this insight in unexpected ways. Studies on intention and motor control show that mental framing affects muscle recruitment and coordination. Intention shapes outcome before action begins. What ancient practitioners called directing energy, science now recognizes as top-down regulation. Again, different language, same truth. Intention also unified inner and outer action. A person with clear intention moved efficiently, spoke calmly, and reacted proportionally. Energy was no longer wasted on hesitation or overreaction. This was especially valuable in historical contexts, where mistakes were costly. Warriors, healers, and leaders all relied on this inner alignment to function under pressure. An important realization emerged here. Intention works best when it is simple. Complex inner commands create confusion. Ancient practice favored clarity over ambition. One intention at a time. Stability. Calm. Continuity. Over time, these simple directions reshaped character itself. Energy control became ethical control, influencing how a person treated others and responded to adversity. At this level, practice extended beyond formal training. Everyday actions became opportunities to refine intention. Walking, speaking, listening, and even resting carried an inner direction. Life itself became the training ground. This is why energy control was never meant to be isolated from society. It was designed to create individuals who contributed stability rather than chaos. As this series progresses, the next part will explore how these individual practices interacted with community, ritual, and shared meaning, transforming personal control into cultural strength. If you find value in this exploration, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement sustains this work and helps bring thoughtful content to a wider audience. As individual control of breath, body, attention, and intention matured, ancient societies recognized a powerful truth. Energy does not exist only within the individual. It flows between people. It shapes groups, rituals, and shared moments. What one person cultivates internally can stabilize or disturb an entire community. This realization elevated energy control from personal discipline to cultural foundation. Early rituals were not empty ceremonies. They were collective technologies for aligning inner states. When people gathered to breathe together, move together, or focus attention on a shared symbol, something measurable happened. Fear diminished. Trust increased. Coordination improved. Ancient cultures may not have used modern terminology, but they clearly understood group regulation. Ritual synchronized nervous systems long before science described it. This is why historical societies placed such importance on rhythm, chant, posture, and silence in communal settings. These elements were not decorative. They guided collective energy. A community that breathed and moved together responded to crisis with unity rather than panic. Energy control at the group level created resilience. It reduced conflict and amplified cooperation. Leadership emerged naturally from this understanding. Leaders were not defined only by authority, but by presence. A calm leader stabilized others simply by being centered. An agitated leader spread disorder without speaking a word. Ancient texts repeatedly emphasize the inner state of those in power because its effects were observable. Energy traveled through attention, tone, and timing. Control was contagious. Ritual also served as a transmission method. Knowledge of energy control was embedded in stories, gestures, and repeated actions rather than abstract instruction. This made it accessible across generations, even to those without formal education. Children learned regulation by participation, not explanation. Culture itself became a teacher. Modern research now confirms this phenomenon. Emotional contagion, group coherence, and social regulation are measurable realities. Heart rates synchronize. Stress spreads or calms through subtle cues. What ancient cultures experienced as shared energy is now studied as interpersonal neurobiology. Once again, language evolves, but the underlying reality remains. An important ethical dimension emerged at this level. When energy influences others, responsibility increases. Ancient practitioners warned that inner chaos harms more than the self. This is why restraint, humility, and discipline were emphasized. Energy control was never about domination. It was about reducing harm and increasing stability within the group. Over time, societies that maintained these practices developed strong cultural identities. Shared rituals created continuity across generations. Even during upheaval, people retained an inner reference point. Energy control became memory, identity, and resilience woven together. This is why the loss of ritual often coincided with cultural fragmentation. As this series moves forward, the next part will explore how energy control evolved under pressure, during war, collapse, and transformation, revealing why these practices survived while empires fell. If this perspective adds depth to your understanding, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows these stories and insights to continue reaching those who seek more than surface-level explanations. History rarely unfolds in peace. Civilizations rise under tension, expand through conflict, and often collapse under the weight of their own instability. It was during these moments of pressure that energy control revealed its deepest value. When resources disappeared and certainty collapsed, inner regulation became the final line of defense. Those who mastered it endured when structures failed. Ancient records consistently show that practices of inner control intensified during periods of war and social breakdown. Warriors trained not only their bodies, but their breath and attention to remain functional in chaos. Fear could not be eliminated, but it could be regulated. Panic wasted energy and cost lives. Calm preserved clarity and response time. Energy control was survival strategy, not philosophy. Civilians also relied on these skills. During famine or displacement, despair drained vitality faster than hunger. Those who could stabilize their inner state conserved strength and made better decisions. This is why many traditions emphasize endurance rather than dominance. Energy was something to be preserved, not expended recklessly. Historical collapse also revealed another truth. External control is fragile. Empires depend on systems that can fail. Inner control travels with the individual. When borders dissolved and institutions vanished, breath, posture, and attention remained available. This portability made energy practice resilient across generations. It survived exile, occupation, and cultural suppression. During these trials, teachings became more refined. Unnecessary complexity was stripped away. What remained were the essentials. Breathe calmly, stand with balance, focus attention, set clear intention. Everything else was secondary. This distillation process explains why similar principles appear across cultures that never directly interacted. Pressure selected what worked. Modern stress mirrors these ancient trials in different form. While the threats are less physical, they are constant. Information overload, economic uncertainty, and social fragmentation create continuous strain. The nervous system reacts as if under siege. Energy leaks through worry and distraction. The ancient response remains relevant. Regulation before reaction. Awareness before impulse. What history teaches is that energy control is not about escaping hardship. It is about meeting it without collapse. Those who cultivated inner stability became anchors during storms. Their presence reassured others. Their decisions prevented escalation. Energy control expressed itself as leadership without spectacle. This stage of understanding reframes power itself. True power is the capacity to remain coherent when everything pushes toward fragmentation. It is the ability to act without being consumed by reaction. History rewards this capacity quietly but consistently. Those who possessed it shaped outcomes beyond their numbers. As this journey approaches its final stage, the last part will explore how these ancient insights translate into a modern world, and why the first steps in energy control matter more today than ever before. If this series has deepened your perspective, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement sustains meaningful content and keeps these essential lessons alive. When we look back across history, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Civilizations changed. Languages evolved. Technologies advanced. But the human nervous system remained the same. The same breath that steadied ancient hunters now carries modern stress. The same body that once endured long marches now sits for endless hours. The same attention that once determined survival is now pulled apart by constant signals. This is why the first steps in energy control are not outdated wisdom. They are unfinished human work. The modern world often promises control through external tools, faster devices, smarter systems, stronger structures. Yet the more complex the outer world becomes, the more fragile the inner world often feels. Anxiety rises, focus fractures, fatigue deepens. History explains why. When inner regulation is neglected, energy leaks faster than it can be replaced. No amount of external efficiency can compensate for internal disorder. The ancient approach offers a correction, not by rejecting progress, but by completing it. Breath becomes the reset point in a world that never pauses. Posture becomes resistance against collapse in environments designed for convenience, not balance. Attention becomes an act of reclaiming agency in an economy built on distraction. Intention becomes ethical direction in a time of constant pressure. These are not grand gestures. They are first steps, repeated daily. What makes these steps powerful is their accessibility. They do not require belief, special identity, or withdrawal from society. They operate quietly beneath action. A person can practice them while working, leading, learning, or caring for others. This is why energy control has always survived cultural shifts. It integrates rather than replaces. History also warns us of a mistake. When energy practices are stripped of humility and responsibility, they lose their stabilizing effect. Control without awareness becomes rigidity. Focus without compassion becomes obsession. Ancient traditions emphasized balance because imbalance spreads. In a connected world, inner states ripple outward faster than ever. The responsibility that once belonged to leaders now belongs to everyone. The first steps matter because they shape everything that follows. Without breath awareness, attention cannot stabilize. Without body balance, intention collapses under tension. Without clear intention, energy amplifies confusion instead of clarity. History shows that collapse begins internally before it becomes visible externally. Renewal follows the opposite path. This is why learning energy control is not self-improvement in the shallow sense. It is participation in a long human effort to remain coherent under pressure. It is cultural inheritance carried forward consciously rather than unconsciously. Each person who practices becomes a stabilizing node in a wider system. As this series concludes, the invitation is simple. Begin where humans always began. Notice the breath. Align the body. Rest attention. Clarify intention. These steps are small, but history proves their cumulative power. Empires rose and fell around them, but they endured because they are built into the human design. If this journey through history, practice, and meaning has given you insight or clarity, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is not just encouragement, it is participation. It allows this work to continue, to go deeper, and to serve a community that values understanding, resilience, and inner strength in a complex world.